All right, listen up, y'all.
Let's get it started.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode. I put a lot of time into this week, made a lot of upgrades. I really hope you enjoy it. It's a lot of hard work, but I had a good time doing it. Without hesitation, Ryan, here's your warning.
Warning. Warning. Warning.
Bitch.
Bitch of the week, everybody. We had some nominations the last couple days. Barry and me were both thrown out. I mean, nonsense. I'm not going to go with those, obviously.
It makes sense. Don't be a bitch.
The Raiders were thrown out, being the only team in the NFL that's 0-3.
Because you have no honor, you goddamn bitch. You have no honor! This is what I'm talking about. It's a whole thing.
Dolphins were tossed out for keeping Tua in.
Look like a bitch again.
Wentz, 52 dropbacks, only 6 points this weekend.
Stupid bitch! Are you seeing a pattern?
You know what? These are all okay recommendations, but I'm just not feeling it. Let's just go with our default Calvo. Calvo's bitch of the week. And with that done, let's move on to the NCAA standings for the week. We've got some very close standings, and we've got some standings that are just not close at all. Let's look at Division 1 first. We've got Shaolin 4-0. He's already beaten Paris Pretty Princesses, so he's cruise control the rest of the season as long as he doesn't have a down week. The Princesses, though, are slated to be in the postseason as of right now. They are in the very last spot. They would get it based on points. So this is kind of a race for points in this division. New Zealand's the highest scoring team otherwise. Long Island's having some rough breaks with their scores up there too. With some late season push, either of those guys could get the last scoring spot in the postseason for the NCAA. The Shaolin's pretty much got this division on lockdown heading to the conference championship games. Move over to Division 2, we've got Muskegon and Bellevue, both undefeated. They play each other in a couple weeks. That's really the only teams in this division that have a shot at postseason. Chichester, if they make some moves and get some big scorers, maybe could make a push for the scoring title. But unless somebody missteps, it's going to come down to Muskegon and Bellevue. Bellevue currently is 30 points out of the playoffs, so they're going to be pushing to see if they can make it in the last couple weeks here. Division 3 standings, we've got Debbie doesn't do Dallas anymore, undefeated. Let's take a look at their head-to-head. They do play Dallas Spurs this week. That's going to be a big one. And then they've got Chernobyl in the last week of the season before we move into the conference championship games. So they could still trip up. We'll see what happens there. Dallas is not in the playoffs yet. Currently, they are about 30 points as well out of the last playoff spot. So hopefully these teams are hoping they can make Dallas trip up. Otherwise, get a good week of scores or a down week from those last couple spots so they can move into the playoffs. Move into Division 4. This one is the closest in terms of who could still actually win the division here. Barbados is holding on to a division lead currently. He plays, this week he's played the Laughing Cats, and then he plays Ditka's right after that. So if he's going to win, he's going to have some work to do. Ditka's as well. They've been in the division lead this whole way, and they lost to Morocco this week. They play Stuttgart this week. They play Barbados the week after that, and the Laughing Cats to finish the season. So they have a really rough stretch as they go. That matchup with Dayton and Stuttgart is going to go a long way to determine who wins this division, but a lot could still change in this division depending on who makes the push. Next division, we've got the Hollywood Hulksters. They've already beaten the Richmond Ravens. They're pretty much on cruise control as well, just waiting for the postseason to get here. They beat the Ravens back in week 2. Ravens, though, they're in the playoffs right now. They're in the number 6 seed as a scoring team, so they could still move up. Philadelphia is in striking distance. They're only about 20 points out of the playoffs currently. So this is a lot of teams in this division as well that can make a push for the postseason. Division 6, we still have 2 undefeated teams in Division 6, so clearly they haven't played each other yet. Alcatraz, looking forward in their schedule. They've got Corpus Christi in week 7. That's going to be do a lot to determine who wins this division. The Blockers are about 50 points out of the postseason based on points. They're the only other team really with any shot at doing anything in this division. Corpus Christi is in the playoffs though. If it were to start today based on points, they're in by about 20 points over the last spot. So this division looks like there's going to be a couple postseason teams coming from here. And then last division, Division 7, this is the weakest division of all of them. It's just hardly anything going on here. Richmond's running away with it. Orange County is in striking distance to the postseason, but they're the only threat they've got. They have not played each other yet. They will play each other. Let me get that pulled up here. They play each other the very last week of the season, week 7, right before postseason play. So they may play back-to-back weeks in the conference championships as well. So there's some moving around that could still happen for sure. Anything could happen, honestly. It'll be really interesting to see what happens as we get to the end of the season here. Wanted to show you guys the divisions really fast. Here's a look at our divisions. Division 5 is the leader with 12,172 points. We have a few teams in the 11,000 range. Division 6, 10,908 isn't quite to 11,000 yet. And Division 7 all the way down here with 10,395 points. They trail all other divisions by at least 500 points. So it looks like Division 7 is slated to be a group of 5 conference next year. In our case, it'll be group of 3, but they are on the outside looking in as far as promotion goes. The top teams will still be moved. They'll be moved to another division. We will be setting that up next year as we talked about last week. Let me pull up those 2 images so I can get those stats for you guys. Here are the teams currently slated to be demoted from Power 4. Sokovia, Seattle, Lynchburg, Star City, the Big R Vinegar Strokes, Rincon, St. Louis, and Hong Kong are all the teams in the divisions that currently are scoring enough points to remain a Power 4 division, and they would be moving down to the weaker 3. The strong teams from the 3 weakest divisions that are going to be moved to another division in one of the Power 4 divisions are Richmond, Muskegon, Alcatraz, Corpus Christi, Bellevue, Orange County, the Blockers, and Denver Air Raid. As of this week, those are the teams that are slated to move around. At the bottom of this image here, you can see the math that I have. Different divisions. The Power 4 divisions, once I get the teams added, will average about 12,500 points each. The Power 3 conferences, once I move the teams around, are averaging under 10,000 points each. If you want to get a better look at that, here's what that looks like. Division 5, Division 1, Division 3, and Division 4 will be your Power 4 conferences as of now. Division 6, 2, and 7 will be your group of 3. And that's what the teams will move around. This will change every week. I've already fiddled with this a little bit to see what it looked like last week. But as of now, these are where the teams would move around based on next season. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask. I'm happy to walk you through those things. Let's move over to Super Cup. We've got Super Cup final. Muskegon wins the whole dang thing. I beat them back in week 1, 423.77 to 410.45. But in this format, number 1 and number 2 have a chance to stay alive if they lose the first round. And Barry made the most of it. He made it all the way to the championship, and he took down the highest scoring team in the league, Richmond Ronin, up through 3 weeks. Excuse me, trying to spit that out. So Muskegon wins our very first Super Cup tournament. Congratulations, Muskegon. Let's look at our Super League turnout from last week. Week 4, we had the Ronin and Muff Divers faced off here as well, so that's a double whammy against Ronin. We've got Hollywood Hulksters defeating the Debbie Doesn't Do Dallas team anymore. Morocco beats Corpus Christi. Shaolin takes down the Philadelphia football team. and the Dayton Ditkas beat the Chichester Crusaders. Week 5 matchups, we've got Richmond against Debbie Doesn't Do Dallas Anymore, Muskegon against Hollywood, Morocco versus Dayton, Shaolin against Chichester, and Corpus Christi against the Philadelphia football team. Take a quick look at our rankings. We've got Hollywood being the highest scoring team from our Super League teams this week, so he takes the lead in that setup. Move over now to Invictus Games. Invictus Games in week 4, we had Morocco beating Denver, we had Hollywood beating Chernobyl, we had Dayton beating Corpus Christi, Orange County took down the New Zealand team, Manthurian beat Sokovia, Stuttgart got past Frisco Cowboys, and last but not least, Pembroke beat Rincon Piratas in week 4. Looking at our week 5 matchups, we've got Morocco and New Zealand facing off, Hollywood and the Denver Air Raid match head to head, Corpus Christi and Chernobyl will face off, Manthurian and Orange County will battle it out, Stuttgart and Sokovia, Rincon and Frisco, and then last but not least, Pembroke takes on the Dayton Ditkas. Good luck to everybody in those matchups. Here's a peek at our standings for the Invictus Games. Stuttgart still undefeated in Invictus Games play. Good going. Morocco, Hulksters, and Dayton still doing everything we can to catch up to you. If you stumble, we will shoot into first because we've got quite a lead in points. But it's shaping up, looking nicely. This Invictus Games is playing out just as I hoped. It's giving these high-scoring teams a little bit more of a struggle in their matchups instead of a cakewalk divisional game only. Before we move on to Ryder Cup and our new NCAA tournament, let's look at the FA Cup standings. You guys asked about the FA Cup. Some of you didn't know what it was. This is an NFL side competition. It is based or seeded on all-play wins from last year. You get all your all-play wins from last year added to your all-play wins from this year. That seeds from 9 all the way down to 56. All 56 teams in the league are in this tournament. The top 8 seeds, however, are seeded based on how some teams finished last year. The FA Cup winner gets the first seed, the Champions League winner gets the second seed, Champions League second place gets the third seed, fourth seed in all the way down to 8 kind of can get shaken up because some of the teams above them may have already slotted once or twice. For instance, St. Louis won Champions League and the LCS, so that changes how those get seeded. But for this year, we've got Rincon, who was the LCS second place team last year, as the 4 seed. Evansville was the LCS 5th seed last year. He takes the 5th seed in the FA Cup. The New Zealand All Blacks get the 6th seed. They were the Joe's Tournament winner last year. 7 seed is the Bastards of Winterfell. They won the Pros Tournament. And Denver Air Raid is our last locked-in seed at 8. They were our International Cup winners last year. So, as always, ask questions if you'd like to know more about the FA Cup. I can go through it in the owners chat with you guys. Now, let's go over to the new NCAA tournament.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
There was some comments in the chat when we started the Ryder Cup about how they love the side games, but it seems like all the same teams end up in those games. So here we go. We've got a new game for lesser teams. There will be no cash payouts, but we will attach a bankroll prize at the end to the teams that win in advance. This is going to be called the NCAA FA Cup. I was doing some research about tournament formats and found out I didn't really format our NFL FA Cup correctly if I'm trying to replicate what the true FA Cup does. They have randomized matchups each round, head-to-head. So there will be no straight seeding. You will not have strong team against weak team. If you win, you advance. You will have a random matchup in that next round. It will run from weeks 4 through 9. And of course, we just played week 4. So I am going to run us through what week 4 would have been if I had this set up prior to last week. Our first matchup, we have Kentucky Wind Chimes against the Lamb County Legends. Our second matchup, we have Asgard Kings against Lynchburg Loggers. Next matchup, number 3, we have the Bastards of Winterfell against the Pokhara Snow Leopards. For matchup number 4, we have Evansville Knights against Richmond Ravens. Remember, these are all NCAA matchups. Our next matchup pits Knoxville Nighthawks against Bellevue Barracudas. The Serengeti Yeti face off against the Paris Pretty Princesses. Now we've got the Big R Vinegar Strokes against the Catalina Wine Mixers, our favorite wine mixers. Richmond Flying Squirrels face off against Carolina Reapers in matchup 8. Game 9 puts the Amazon Anacondas against the Sydney Swans. Barbados Buccaneers in Game 10 against the Long Island team. Game 11, we've got the Hong Kong Street Tacos versus the Alcatraz Ironmen. Star City Saviors face off in Game 12 against St. Louis Barnstormers. Game 13 puts Miami Sharks against Dallas Spurs. The Louisville Laughing Cats face off against Gaylordsville Rearguard. Game 15 puts Seattle Kraken versus the Kamloops Dirty Dogs. London False Nines in Game 16 face off against Halifax. Game 17 is the Piccadilly Pickle Pickers against the Waipio Cliff Crawlers. And our last matchup from Week 4 puts the Blockers against the Battler.
This is Sports Center.
Something I just wanted to touch on before I move to the next round of matchups. I just took some time to look at some of these matchups and how they turned out, and we had some really close matchups. We had the number 6 seed Coxville Blockers against number 13 Aussie Battler. The final score of that game was 366.43 for the Blockers to 366.07 for the Battler. So less than half a point separated their final score. We had another really, really close matchup between the number 8 seed, the Bastards of Winterfell, and the number 18 seed, Pokhara Snow Leopards. The final score of that one was 360.82 for the Winterfell team to 360.45 for the Leopards. So the number 8 seed Winterfell passed there by like 0.3 points. Very, very, very close game. Dallas Spurs was the highest seed that did not advance. They actually were also the highest scoring losing team. They lost to the Miami Sharks, which were the 14 seed. Miami scored 395.66 and Dallas scored 387.12. Really, really close matchups. Barbados was the only other team in the top 10 that didn't advance. They were the number 7 seed heading into this tournament. They lost to the number 17 seed, Long Island, by a score of 360.24 to 353.17. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I wanted to pass that along. It's kind of hard to see the scores on the sheet because it gets shrunk. Let's move on to the next round and see the matchups. So we have all of our winning teams advancing. The teams that qualify, I should have covered this at the beginning. The teams that qualify for this matchup will be teams that are not in the NCAA Super League and teams that are not in the Invictus Games. So the number of teams potentially could change in this matchup in the NCAA FA Cup from season to season because some of those teams may be duplicates and some of them may not. So in case we have weeks where there are odd number of winners advancing, highest scoring losing team from the round will advance. This round, it was the Dallas Spurs, so if we need them for a matchup, they will be available. So now, this week's Week 5 upcoming NCAA FA Cup matchups will be the London False Nines versus the Carolina Reapers. We've got the Paris Pretty Princesses against the Star City Saviors. The Bastards of Winterfell versus the Barracuda the Bellevue Barracudas. Kamloops Dirty Dogs face off against the Long Island team. You've got the Sydney Swans versus the Catalina Wine Mixers. The Louisville Laughing Cats face off in Game 6 against the Alcatraz Ironmen. The Blockers in Game 7 face off against the Pickle Pickers. Game 8 puts the Miami Sharks against the Asgard Kings. And in our last matchup for Week 5 upcoming, we have the Lamb County Legends versus the Richmond Ravens. So Dallas, we didn't need you. Sorry about that. You didn't advance this year. These will be our 9 matchups in Week 5 for the NCAA FA Cup. Winners will advance, and if need be, since we have 9 matchups, we will need them in this case, then the highest scoring losing team will advance to Week 6. As you move through this tournament, if you play in the next round, I would say all winning teams earn $25 bankroll, but if you play in the next round, you will earn $25 bankroll. That will accumulate through this matchup. The winner of the entire tournament, I think, would be eligible to win something like 150 bankroll. I am really excited about this tournament. I think it's going to work out great. I think it's the first week already was really close, as we looked at already. So good luck to all of you teams that are not in the Super League and Invictus Games. I'm glad we were able to come up with something that worked for you guys. Now we will look at Ryder Cup turnout from last week. Bear Crawlers had a rough week. We only pulled 2 wins this time, so Massage Parlor dug deep. Haha, excuse the pun. They took the lead after 3 weeks. They are ahead 11-10 with all their wins. Mantharian and Debbie Doesn't Do Dallas Anymore, their combined score lost to Morocco and the Catalina Wine Mixers. Morocco and the Wine Mixers take the point in that matchup. Sokovia and Seattle scored enough combined points to outpace Shaolin and the Pembroke Pines. They score a point for the Massage Parlor. Corpus Christi and Barbados came up short against Dayton and Hollywood. Dayton and Hollywood get the point for the Bear Crawlers. And that's all we scored. The rest of these matchups all went to the Massage Parlor. New Zealand All Blacks and Muskegon Muff Divers combined to score more points than St. Louis and Waipio. The Blockers and the Denver Air Raid outscored a combined total of Serengeti Yeti and the Frisco Cowboys. Richmond Ronin and Rincon Piratas outscored Pokhara and Long Island, and Orange County Dillywhackers and Bellevue combined to score more than Chernobyl and Stuttgart Sharks. Now, friendly reminder, these matchups, these are foursome matchups. So that means each of these teams, one team played an NCAA game, the other team played an NFL game. So that's where we got our combined score from for that. So we have another week of those games coming up. Let's move over and look at our setup for that this week. We got another week of foursome play this time around. Here's our lineup. They were submitted last night. Debbie Doesn't Do Dallas Anymore faces St. Louis Barnstormers in an NFL matchup. That means Orange County and Frisco will be tallying their NCAA score. Corpus Christi and Pokhara come up next. They will have an NCAA matchup. That leaves Muskegon and Shaolin tallying their NFL score. Coxville and the Stuttgart Sharks face off. They will be NCAA. That leaves Rincon and Long Island as an NFL score. Richmond and Serengeti Yeti come up next. They will have an NFL score. That leaves Bellevue and Dayton as NCAA. Coming up next, we've got Denver and Pembroke Pines. They will be playing NCAA, which means New Zealand and Frisco. You guys get to face off in the NFL this time around. Barbados and Waipio, you guys will be playing NCAA. And that means Mantharian and Morocco will be NFL. Mantharian pulls the Morocco team 2 weeks in a row. Rough match there. Sokovia and Hollywood, you guys are going NFL, which means lastly we have Seattle and the Catalina Wine Mixers getting an NCAA score. So that is our matchups for this week. Good luck to all of you guys in those. And before we sign off here, let's look at our total scoring points for Ryder Cup play. There we go. Massage Parlor 11-10 over Bear Crawlers. Bellevue Barracudas so far is the points leader with 1.5 points through these first 4 weeks. It is all combined setup where the two teams will play together. So the two teams that are on the winning side of these matchups both get half a point. That means Bellevue has been in the winning side of these matchups in all 3 weeks. Well done, Bellevue. Luck of the draw, I know, but still, good job. I think that's about all we got to look at this week. I can't think of anything else to cover. I'm sure I will as soon as I turn the video off. Good luck to everybody this week. I really hope you liked all of my updates. Hard work, but I have loved every second of it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.